before you knock our socks off with the first song, tell me about being called into the Oval Office to whistle for the President of the United States and some of his senior-most people.
Okay. It was pretty cool. And so I worked in the Office of Management and Budget. I do have a day job in case any of you are wondering. Actually, one quick aside is around 10 years ago I made a CD. And I work at the Carlyle Group, which is a global investment firm, and I run the global communications. So I went in to see my boss, David Rubenstein, and I said, David, I have a CD coming out. I just want you to know I'm committed to Carlyle. And David, who's very witty and very dry wit, says, oh, I'm not worried. We pay you more than you'll ever make whistling. And he was right 10 years ago, and he is right today. But that's not why I do it. I do it because it brings joy to people, and we will talk about that. But anyway, so I worked at OMB, and one day, a friend who worked in the West Wing proper said, hey, Andy Card's birthday is tomorrow. Andy Card was the president's chief of staff. Can you come and whistle happy birthday for him? And I said, wow, that'd be awesome. So I put on my calendar, and at the appointed time, I went over to the West Wing, and there was a little conference room, and I walk in, and there's Karl Rove and Condoleezza Rice, and I mean, all these people you see on TV, Ari Fleischer, like all the bigwigs, not the president. And then people are milling about, and they're probably all wondering who I was because I was not kind of on the West Wing staff. And then Andy Card walks in, and everyone claps, and they say, well, Chris is going to whistle for you. And he kind of looks at me like, whistle at me or for me? And I said, no, for you. Okay, so I whistle happy birthday, and he was really into it. And then, all right, so then we're done. I go back to my day job across the street. And the next day, my boss, who's Mitch Daniels, who went on to be the governor of Indiana and the president of Purdue, comes to me and says, hey, the president was asking about your whistling. And I said, why could the president care? And he said, Andy Card told him about it. And I said, wow, that's pretty interesting. A little scary, but it's interesting. And then like 3 weeks go by, and this is the critical moment. We have a staff meeting at 8:30 every morning, and all the senior staff at OMB were gathered outside the director's office, and Mitch calls everyone, starts to call everyone in, and it says, everyone leave except Ullman. And I said, no, this could not be good. Because when you're a spokesman, you're one bad quote away from losing your job. And as Sean Spicer will soon find out. Anyhow, so he said, we're going to the Oval Office to whistle for the president. And I said, now? And he said, yep, get your jacket and figure out what you're going to do, and we're leaving. So I ran upstairs, put on a coat, and we walked across to the Oval Office. And I mean, it was an astounding scene that it's one of those things where you say to yourself, remember every moment, because this will never happen again, and it's really freaky. Okay, so and when you're actually kind of expected at the Oval Office, all the people with bulges in their jackets because of guns and things actually let you go past, because otherwise they don't let you go near the Oval Office. So I walk into the Oval Office, and Bush is sitting at his desk, and he's got his feet up on the desk. He's got an unlit cigar in his hand, just kind of hanging out. And I thought, wow, this is what you do in the Oval. Okay. And so he sees me, and he jumps up. And he comes up to me and says, do you sit? Do you stand? Do you need some water? Who taught you how to whistle? And I'm like, whoa, dude. And the whole experience was just so odd, because he's not just a normal person. He is the President of the United States, and in his office, and he's acting in an unusual manner. And so I said, I don't need any water. I'm moist and puckered. I'm ready to go. And he said, well, who did teach you how to whistle? I said, well, my father taught me how to whistle. And he said, okay. And he goes back to his desk, takes out some presidential letterhead, and says, I'm going to write your father a review after you're done. I said, uh-oh, I better do a good job. And then I said, we chatted for a little while. He says, what do you do in my administration? And then I said to him, he said, well, whistle. It's my first presidential directive. And I said, okay, well, what kind of music do you like? And he said, country western. And now, this is really the danger of asking someone,
Yeah.
you don't know what they're going to say. So I don't know a lot of country western. And I said, well, how about the Lone Ranger song? And he says, perfect. Well, I didn't have the heart to tell him it's an Italian opera. So I whistled that. I whistled the Fifth Symphony of Beethoven. I do A Train by Duke Ellington. I do dueling banjos with Mitch, my boss. And then I say, well, he says, well, whistle more. And I say, well, I don't want to overdo it. He says, oh, I'll let you know when I've had enough. And then meanwhile, Cheney had walked in, Alberto Gonzales, who went on to be the Attorney General, and it was a concert going on. And the amazing thing, and I reference this in the book, is that when I was done, the meeting was over. I thought I was, like, all those bigwigs had come in to meet with the president. But they didn't. When we left, Cheney walked out with me, and we're walking down the hall chatting with the vice president. So I don't recall if he likes whistling or not.